Right, let's talk about midfielders for a minute. David Ornstein on midfield signings for Liverpool said there doesn't seem to be midfield doesn't seem to be a department at the top of their priority list, and if that's the case, you can understand why. I can't, David. I very much can't. I respect David Ornstein greatly as a journalist, but I disagree with this narrative that Liverpool don't need to look at the midfield situation. If the answer was because of Stefan Bajcetic, like I've said, I get it, but that's not the answer. What he goes on to say is Zubimendi was viewed as a market opportunity. When Liverpool's pursuit didn't come to fruition, they decided against pivoting to another target. It was he who they wanted. The call appears to have been vindicated with Gravenberch's outstanding season, Endo's contributions, McAllister's consistency, and Jones shining when called upon. All of that's irrelevant because Endo doesn't start matches because the manager doesn't trust them. McAllister doesn't play in the same position as Gravenberch, nor does Jones. So what we really have at Liverpool is 4 midfielders and the manager will play 3 of them. I'm not wrong. You've got Jones, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister. End of conversation. So all this other talk is just bullshit. And look, yes, maybe Gravenberch is the guy, but we still need an understudy to the guy. We still need somebody to compete and rotate with Gravenberch, or else we're going to be one injury from Gravenberch away from another season falling apart. And lessons need to be learned here. It's like these journalists sometimes do FSG's bullshit for them. We need another midfielder. We were lucky this season that Gravenberch has been able to play through. And even at that, we're still talking about him being overplayed. So this narrative needs to change to me. We need a midfielder unless Arne comes out and specifically says Stefan Bajcetic is going to be Gravenberch's understudy in that sound. But then we'll look at Elliott's situation. Mukarab said Ryan's been dead in his feet for the last few weeks. J Mew said looks like somebody's wrote that for Ornstein. You forgetting Szoboszlai. Yes, sorry, mate. What I meant was we've got Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones. All of them can play in the 8, as I'd call it. But when you come in to talk about Gravenberch's position, there's only him and Endo. They're the only ones at the club. And when we stop having Gravenberch, and by the way, thank you for reminding me about Dom. He had slipped my mind. But either way, I do feel like we don't have another Gravenberch alternative. So let's say Ryan got injured this season. What we're going to end up doing in that situation is shoehorning McAllister into the 6 and playing Jones and Szoboszlai together. And McAllister is so talented that, yeah, he'll do a job for you. But again, we're talking about having experts here in a certain position. And Endo hasn't been given a starting berth at any point other than throwaway cup games where we're hoping for the best. Would you start McConnell against West Ham? This season, our overall score is 10-1 against them, and I want to see them. Look, I like James McConnell. I think he's a really good talent, and I'm glad that he was kept around after Tyler Morton had his, I think, shoulder injury, if my memory's right. So it seems like Arne Slot rates him as well. So yeah, it's a real interesting one. It's such a difficult decision for a coach to decide not to make a signing to back a youth player because it requires some patience. And with the hectic nature of modern football and the Premier League being so competitive, you don't really have that wiggle room. So it's a difficult one for the manager. You've got to be really convinced in a player. And I would say McConnell is right on the fringe there. A brilliant young player. I really like him. You can see the football brain working when he's on the pitch. So yeah, I'd keep him around over Morton anyway, personally. Reece Williams is another one, Mukarab, yep. Jonesy lad said, I want to see Neone develop big talent. He's brilliant. Look, there is some great talent at our disposal. And I hope if we are going to make some bold decisions that it's to back some of this talent. Because unless we see so many young players coming through with other clubs and then going for huge money, but that's because the managers or the clubs, either through a culture of necessity or just backing young players, give them these opportunities to shine. And if you can find the right young players to have that kind of fearlessness of youth, give them a shot. And Trey Morris Neone is an outstanding footballer. Yeah, can't wait to see his development. Lewis Kumas is another exciting one. And Jaden Dans as well. They're all players, along with young Rio, that I think have a great chance to be proper first teamers at Liverpool.